The great crystal halls of Nexus Prime sparkled under the light of three suns. Inside the massive dome, beings from across the galaxy sat in perfect circles around a floating platform. Some had blue skin that glowed softly. Others looked like giant insects with clicking sounds coming from their mouths. A few resembled walking trees with leaves that changed colors when they spoke. This was the Galactic Council, and today they were talking about the newest members to join their group. Humans from a small blue planet called Earth. Ambassador HFY stretched his long neck and looked down at the datapad in his clawed hands. His people, the Altarians, had ruled star systems for thousands of years. They thought they knew everything about war and peace in the galaxy. These humans, HFY said with a voice like wind through metal pipes, are nothing special. They barely know how to fly between planets. Their technology is so old that my grandfather would laugh at it. The other ambassadors nodded their heads or made whatever movements their species used to agree. They had all seen the reports about Earth. The humans used machines that burned fuel to fly through space. They shot metal bullets from their weapons instead of energy beams. Most of their planets were still covered in dirt and water instead of proper cities made of crystal and light. General Vexthal stood up from his seat. He was a Corvani, which meant he looked like a huge lizard walking on two legs. His scales were dark green and covered in scars from many battles. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. I have studied their military files, Vexthal said, holding up a small device that showed pictures in the air. Look at this. They still use chemical explosives. Their ships have no energy shields. No plasma cannons, no quantum weapons at all. They fight with metal and fire like children playing with sticks. The hologram showed human soldiers running across a field while explosions went off around them. Their uniforms were simple green and brown cloth. Their weapons looked heavy and crude compared to the sleek energy rifles used by galactic forces. How did they even qualify for council membership? Asked Ambassador Lerazen. Her people, the peaceful hegemony, had blue skin that glowed when they were confused. Right now, she was glowing quite brightly. Their planet has some rare metals we need, HFY explained. And the council rules say any species that can travel faster than light gets a chance to join. We just never expected them to be so backward. On the other side of the galaxy, Colonel Jake Morrison sat in a gray metal chair and read his orders for the third time. The words on the screen did not change, but he kept hoping they would. Outside the window of Terra Command, he could see Earth's moon hanging in the black sky like a white stone. The orders were simple but not easy. Humanity had been given their first mission as council members. They were supposed to deal with space pirates in something called the Kepler sector. The pirates had been attacking trade ships and stealing cargo for months. The council wanted to see if humans could handle the problem. Morrison was 45 years old and had been a soldier for most of his life. He had fought in wars on Earth, before humans ever learned to fly between stars. His brown hair was getting gray at the edges, and his face had lines from too many years of worrying about other people's safety. Admiral Lisa Barnes walked into the room without knocking. She was the kind of person who never knocked because she was usually too busy saving the world to worry about being polite. Her red hair was pulled back tight, and her green eyes looked like they could see through steel walls. "Jake," she said, sitting down across from him, "tell me you understand what this really is." Morrison looked up from his orders. "A peacekeeping mission. We go to Kepler sector, find the pirates, stop them from bothering the trade ships." Barnes shook her head. "It's a test, Jake. The council thinks we're going to fail. They expect us to come running back asking for their fancy ships and energy weapons. They want to prove that humans need their help to survive in space." Morrison thought about this for a moment. He had met some of the other species when Earth first joined the council. They were polite enough, but he could see in their eyes that they thought humans were just smart animals who had learned to use tools. "What do we know about these pirates?" Morrison asked. Barnes touched her datapad, and pictures appeared on the wall screen. The images showed sleek ships that looked like silver fish swimming through space. Their hulls reflected light in strange ways, and energy weapons glowed blue and white along their sides. "They're called the Kepler clan," Barnes said. "Been raiding trade routes for 5 years. Their ships are fast, well-armed, and protected by energy shields that can stop most galactic weapons. The Council has sent 3 different fleets after them. All 3 failed, and now they're sending us, with 1 ship." Morrison laughed, but there was no humor in it. 1 ship against pirates who beat 3 Council fleets. They really do want us to fail. Barnes stood up and walked to the window. Earth looked peaceful from up here, but Morrison knew that was just because you couldn't see all the problems when you were far enough away. "The UE's Defiant is ready to go," Barnes said. "Captain Ryan Torres is commanding. Good man. His crew knows their job." Morrison had served with Torres before. The captain was young but smart, and he understood that sometimes the best way to win a fight was to do something the enemy would never expect. "What about weapons and supplies?" Morrison asked. "Standard kinetic cannons, magnetic accelerators, and projectile systems, plus a full marine complement with boarding equipment." "Boarding equipment?" Morrison raised an eyebrow. "When's the last time anyone boarded an enemy ship during combat?" "Exactly," Barnes said with a small smile. "When's the last time anyone expected it?" Morrison began to understand. The galaxy had spent thousands of years developing energy weapons and shields. They fought their battles at long range, ship to ship, with beams of light and plasma. Nobody got close enough to actually climb onto an enemy vessel and fight hand to hand. "You think our old-fashioned weapons might actually work better than their advanced ones?" "I think," Barnes said, "that sometimes the best way to win is to play a completely different game than everyone else expects." 3 hours later, Morrison stood in the shuttle bay watching his gear being loaded onto a transport ship. His team was small but experienced. They had all fought together before, and they trusted each other with their lives. The used Defiant waited for them in orbit. From the outside, it looked like a simple gray rectangle with engines on one end and weapons on the other. No fancy curves or shining metal. No energy fields making the air shimmer around it. Just solid human engineering built to do a job. As the shuttle carried Morrison toward his ship, he thought about the Council sitting in their crystal halls, probably laughing about the primitive humans and their hopeless mission. They had no idea what human soldiers could do when they were angry and determined. The pirates in the Kepler sector were about to learn something that the galaxy had forgotten over thousands of years of civilized warfare. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who didn't fight fair because they didn't know there were rules. Morrison smiled as the Defiant grew larger in the shuttle's window. The Council wanted to test humanity's military abilities. They were about to get a demonstration they would never forget. The Kepler sector looked like a graveyard of broken dreams. Pieces of destroyed ships floated in the darkness between stars, their metal hulls twisted and burned. Some were trade vessels that had been carrying food and supplies to colonies. Others were passenger ships full of families trying to reach new homes on distant worlds. Warlord Kepler stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled as he watched his warriors load stolen cargo into their ships. His people were tall and thin with gray skin that looked like stone. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dark, and their teeth were sharp enough to cut metal. Kepler had been raiding ships in this sector for 5 years. His clan owned 12 fast attack vessels, each one armed with plasma cannons that could melt through the strongest hulls. Energy shields protected his ships from return fire, making them almost impossible to destroy. "Warlord," called his second-in-command, a smaller warrior named Vrektal, "we have received intelligence from our spies in the Council networks." Kepler turned away from the loading operation. His yellow eyes focused on Vrektal with the intensity of a hunting animal. "What news?" "The Council is sending forces to stop our raids. A single ship from the newest member species. Humans from a planet called Earth." Kepler threw back his head and laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge like breaking glass. His warriors joined in, their voices creating a chorus of cruel amusement. "One ship?" Kepler roared. "The mighty Council sends children to fight warriors. What do these humans fly? Some energy dreadnought with quantum cannons? Vrektal checked his datapad and shook his head. No, Warlord. Intelligence says they use primitive kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion, no energy shields. No plasma systems. Their ship appears to be made of simple metal. This made Kepler laugh even harder. He had fought Council fleets before and won because his ships were faster and better armed. If the Council was now sending primitives with metal bullets, the fight would be over before it started. Prepare the ambush ships, Kepler ordered. When these humans arrive, we will show the galaxy what happens to those who dare enter our territory. Far across the sector, the UES Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a drifting cargo convoy. Captain Ryan Torres stood on his bridge and studied the destruction through the main viewscreen. His ship looked small and plain compared to the sleek vessels used by other galactic species. But Torres knew that sometimes the most dangerous weapons were the ones nobody expected. Torres was 38 years old with black hair and calm brown eyes. He had served on Earth's early space missions before humanity joined the Council. His crew trusted him because he never asked them to do anything he would not do himself. "Report," Torres said to his tactical officer. Commander Amy Foster bent over her sensor station. Her blonde hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and her blue eyes reflected the light from her displays. She had studied every type of ship and weapon system used in the galaxy, but what she saw here still made her angry. 15 cargo ships destroyed, Foster reported. 2 passenger vessels. The attack happened 6 hours ago. Energy weapon signatures match Corvani military-grade plasma cannons. Colonel Morrison stepped up beside Torres. He had been studying the wreckage through binoculars, an old-fashioned tool that most galactic species had forgotten how to use. "Look at the damage patterns," Morrison said. "Clean cuts through the hull, no wasted shots. These pirates know exactly how to disable a ship without destroying the cargo." Lieutenant Ben Carter looked up from the weapons console. He was young and eager, with red hair and green eyes that reminded Torres of Earth's forests. Carter had trained on every weapon system in the human fleet, and he was excited to finally use them in real combat. "Sir," Carter said, "should I charge the kinetic cannons?" "Not yet," Torres replied. "First we need to find them." The Defiant moved deeper into the sector, its sensors scanning for any sign of the pirate fleet. The ship's hull was painted gray to blend into the darkness of space, and its engines ran quietly to avoid detection. While other species built ships that announced their presence with energy fields and bright lights, humans preferred to move like shadows. 3 days passed before they found their first target. The Defiant was investigating a reported attack near an asteroid field when 3 pirate ships suddenly appeared on their sensors. The enemy vessels had been hiding behind the space rocks, waiting for new victims to arrive. 3 ships decloaking off our starboard bow, Foster announced. Range, 50,000 kilometers and closing. Energy signatures indicate they're charging weapons. Torres felt his heart start beating faster, but his voice remained calm. "All hands to battle stations. Seal the ship for combat." Alarms began ringing throughout the Defiant as crew members ran to their positions. In the Marine Bay, Sergeant Kate Phillips checked her armor and weapons one more time. She was a tough woman with brown hair and scars on her hands from years of training. Phillips had never fought aliens before, but she figured they would bleed just like anyone else on the pirate flagship. Vrektal watched the human ship through his tactical display. The vessel looked so primitive that he almost felt sorry for its crew. "Warlord," Vrektal said, "the human ship is not retreating. They appear to be holding position." Kepler studied the enemy vessel with interest. Most ships would either run away or start firing at maximum range when faced with 3 heavily armed pirates. The humans were doing neither. "Perhaps they are frozen with fear," Kepler suggested. "No matter. Destroy them quickly so we can return to more profitable activities." The 3 pirate ships moved into attack formation and began firing their plasma cannons. Bright blue beams of energy reached across space toward the Defiant, each one carrying enough power to melt through normal ship armor. On the Defiant's bridge, Torres watched the incoming fire on his tactical display. The plasma beams would reach his ship in 12 seconds. Most captains would try to dodge or return fire at long range. Torres was not most captains. "Helm," he ordered. "Full power to engines. Take us straight at them." The bridge crew looked at their captain like he had lost his mind. "Lieutenant Sarah." Kim, the ship's pilot, had her hands frozen over the controls. Her black hair fell across her face as she stared at Torres in disbelief. "Sir," Kim said carefully, "did you say toward them?" "You heard correctly. Close to knife-fighting range." "Commander Foster, prepare for close combat maneuvers." Foster's fingers flew over her tactical controls. She had trained for this moment, but she had never expected to actually do it in real combat. "Aye, sir." "All weapons standing by." The Defiant shot forward like an arrow released from a bow. Plasma beams struck its hull, melting through the outer armor and sending streams of molten metal into space. Damage reports flooded the bridge as the ship absorbed hit after hit, but the Defiant kept coming. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Chief Engineer Don Murphy over the communication system. His Irish accent was thick with excitement and fear. "Sealing emergency bulkheads. We can take a few more hits like that, but not many." The pirates could not believe what they were seeing. No ship had ever charged directly at them during a fight. Energy weapons were meant to be used at long range where ships could maneuver and dodge. Close combat was suicide. "Range, 5,000 kilometers, Foster announced, entering optimal firing distance. Torres gripped the arms of his command chair. Everything depended on the next few seconds. All weapons, fire at will. The Defiant unleashed its kinetic cannons at point-blank range. Tungsten rods accelerated to tremendous speeds shot across the gap between ships. Unlike energy beams that could be stopped by shields, the metal projectiles punched through the pirate vessel's defenses like they were made of paper. The first pirate ship exploded as a kinetic round pierced its reactor core. The second vessel lost its entire front section when 3 projectiles hit it within a second of each other. The third ship tried to retreat, but another volley of kinetic fire crippled its engines. In less than 30 seconds, the engagement was over. 2 pirate ships were destroyed, and the third was drifting helplessly in space. On the surviving pirate vessel, Vrachtel stared at his damage reports in shock. His ship's energy shields had not even slowed down the human weapons. The metal projectiles had passed through them like they did not exist. "Impossible," he whispered. "How do primitive kinetic weapons penetrate quantum energy barriers?" He was about to find out that humans had more surprises in store for him. The damaged pirate ship drifted in space like a wounded animal. Sparks flew from broken systems inside its hull, and atmosphere leaked out through holes punched by human kinetic weapons. Vrachtel clutched his command chair as his bridge crew tried to make sense of what had just happened. "Damage report," Vrachtel demanded, his yellow eyes glowing brighter with fear and anger. "Forward shields are completely down," reported his weapons officer. The human projectiles went through them, like they were not even there. "Engine power is at 30%. Weapons are offline." Vrachtel could not understand it. His ship's energy barriers were designed to stop the most powerful plasma cannons in the galaxy. They should have absorbed the kinetic energy and converted it to harmless light. Instead, the metal rods had passed through like the shields did. "Not exist." On the Defiant's bridge, Captain Torres studied the crippled enemy vessel through his viewscreen. Smoke and debris drifted around the pirate ship, but it was still in one piece. That was exactly what Torres wanted. "Commander Foster," Torres said, "prepare boarding parties. I want that ship taken intact." Foster looked up from her tactical station with surprise. "Sir, boarding during active combat?" "That has not been done in over 300 years of galactic warfare." "Then they will not expect it," Torres replied. With a slight smile, "Colonel Morrison, are your Marines ready?" Morrison was already moving toward the exit. "Sergeant Phillips has been waiting for this chance her whole career. Give us 5 minutes to suit up." In the Marine Bay, Sergeant Kate Phillips checked her powered armor one more time. The suit was painted matte black to avoid reflecting light. In space, unlike the sleek energy armor used by galactic forces, Human combat suits were built for protection and function rather than appearance. "Listen up," Phillips told her squad of 12 Marines. "We are about to do something that no one in this galaxy has seen for centuries. We are going to board an enemy ship during combat and take it by force." Private First Class Rick Johnson raised his hand. He was 19 years old and had joined the Marines right out of high school on Earth. His enthusiasm sometimes made up for his lack of experience. "Sergeant," Johnson said, "how do we get from our ship to theirs without getting shot?" Phillips pointed to the airlock where a small assault craft waited. "We use the boarding pod. It will punch through their hull and create an entry point. Once we are inside, we fight room by room until the ship is ours." The Marines began loading their weapons and checking their equipment. Instead of energy rifles, they carried projectile weapons that fired metal bullets at high speed. Their armor was designed to stop physical impacts rather than energy beams. Everything about human military equipment was different from Galactic. Standards: Corporal Mike Stevens, the squad's demolitions expert, packed extra explosives into his gear bag. He was a quiet man with steady hands and a talent for making things blow up at exactly the right moment. "Sergeant," Stevens said, "what if they have internal defense systems?" "Then we blow them up and keep moving," Phillips replied. "The mission is simple. Get on their ship, neutralize the crew, and secure the vessel for intelligence gathering." Meanwhile, on the pirate ship, Vrachtel watched something appear on his sensors that made no sense. A small craft had launched from the human vessel and was flying directly toward his ship. It was too small to be a fighter and too slow to be a missile. "What is that thing?" Vrachtel asked his sensor operator. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be some kind of transport craft." "But why would they send a transport at us during combat?" Vrachtel was about to find out. The boarding pod struck his ship's hull with tremendous force, its armored nose punching through the outer plating and inner bulkheads. Emergency alarms began screaming throughout the vessel as atmosphere rushed out through the new hole. Sergeant Phillips was the first Marine through the breach. Her boots hit the deck of the pirate ship with a metallic clang, and she immediately raised her rifle to scan for targets. The corridor was filled with smoke and floating debris, but she could see movement in the shadows ahead. "Move, move, move!" Phillips shouted to her squad. "Secure this section and advance on the bridge." The pirates had never faced human boarding tactics before. Their training focused on ship-to-ship combat with energy weapons at long range. The idea of enemy soldiers actually climbing onto their vessel and fighting hand-to-hand was something from ancient history. The first pirate to encounter the Marines was a warrior named Vrachtel. He rounded a corner carrying an energy pistol and found himself face-to-face with Private Johnson. Both fighters raised their weapons at the same time, but only one of them fired. Johnson's projectile rifle sent 3 metal bullets into Vrachtel's chest before the pirate could pull his trigger. The alien warrior fell backward with a look of shock on his face. He had expected to fight with energy beams in the corridors of his own ship, not bullets fired by soldiers in black armor. "Contact front," Johnson reported over his radio. "Enemy down." Phillips led her squad deeper into the ship, moving through maintenance passages and cargo bays that the pirates had never considered as tactical positions. Human soldiers were trained to use any available cover and concealment, turning even simple storage rooms into defensive positions. The pirates tried to organize a defense, but they were fighting an enemy that used completely different tactics. Their energy weapons were designed for open space combat, not close quarters fighting in narrow corridors. When they tried to use their plasma rifles in confined spaces, the energy discharge often damaged their own ship's systems. Corporal Stevens found the perfect opportunity to use his explosives when the squad encountered a sealed blast door. Instead of trying to cut through it with energy tools, he placed a small charge that blew the door off its hinges and sent it flying down the corridor. "Breach and clear," Stevens announced as the squad poured through the opening. On the other side of the door, 5 pirates waited with their weapons ready. They had planned to ambush the humans when the door opened, but they had not expected it to open by being blown up. The explosion stunned them long enough for the Marines to enter and take control of the room. Private Lisa Shun, the squad's medic, treated a wounded pirate while keeping her rifle ready. She had brown hair and calm eyes that never seemed to show fear, even in the middle of combat. "This one is still alive," Chun reported. "Minor plasma burns and blunt force trauma from the explosion." Phillips nodded as she studied the ship's layout on a captured datapad. "Keep him stable." "Command will." "Want to question prisoners." The fighting continued through the ship as the Marines advanced room by room toward the bridge. The pirates had superior numbers and knew their own vessel, but they were completely unprepared for human tactics. Every corridor became a battlefield, where projectile weapons proved more effective than energy beams. Vrektal tried to coordinate the defense from his bridge, but his warriors were falling back on every level. The humans moved like ghosts through his ship, appearing in places where no enemy should be able to go and disappearing before his forces could respond. "How many of them are there?" Vrektal demanded. "Sensors show only 12 human soldiers," his tactical officer replied. "But they are fighting like they have 100? 12? Vrektal could not believe it. His ship had a crew of 60 warriors, and they were being beaten by 12 humans with primitive weapons. The end came when Sergeant Phillips appeared on the bridge with half her squad behind her. They had entered through a maintenance hatch that the pirates had forgotten to guard. By the time Vrektal realized what was happening, human rifles were pointed at every station on the bridge. "Drop your weapons," Phillips ordered in the common Galactic language. "Surrender and you will not be harmed." Vrektal looked around his bridge at the human soldiers. Their black armor showed scorch marks and dents from the fighting, but they moved with confidence and discipline. These were not the primitive beings the Council had described. These were warriors who had perfected a type of combat that the galaxy had forgotten. Slowly, Vrektal placed his energy pistol on the deck and raised his hands. One by one, his surviving crew members did the same. "Bridge secured," Phillips reported to Captain Torres. "The ship is ours." In less than 1 hour, 12 human Marines had captured a pirate vessel with 60 crew members. They had done it using tactics and weapons that galactic civilization considered obsolete. The victory sent a message across the sector that would change everything. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began at dawn on Nexus Prime. Representatives from dozens of species filled the crystal halls, their voices creating a symphony of confusion and concern. Holographic displays showed footage from the Kepler sector that had arrived just hours before. Ambassador Zephyrka stood at his speaking platform, his long neck stretched high as he watched the combat recordings for the 10th time. The footage showed human soldiers moving through a pirate ship like deadly shadows, using weapons and tactics that defied everything the Council thought they knew about modern warfare. "This cannot be accurate," Zephyrka said, his metallic voice echoing through the chamber. "The data must be corrupted. No species fights this way anymore." General Vexthal climbed to his feet, his heavy footsteps shaking the platform beneath him. The old Korvani warrior had studied military tactics for over 200 years, but what he had seen in the human footage challenged everything he believed about combat. "The recordings are genuine," Vexthal announced to the assembly. "I have verified them through multiple sources. The humans used kinetic projectile weapons to penetrate energy shields that should have stopped any physical attack. Then they boarded the enemy vessel during active combat." Ambassador Lyra Zen of the Peaceful Hegemony glowed bright blue with confusion. Her species had not seen physical combat in over 1,000 years, preferring to settle disputes through meditation and energy harmonics. "Boarding an enemy ship," she said slowly, as if the words were foreign to her tongue. "You mean they actually went inside the vessel and fought the crew directly?" "Hand-to-hand combat in confined spaces," Vexthal confirmed, "using projectile weapons that fire metal bullets instead of energy beams. Their tactics are completely outside our defensive doctrines." The council chamber erupted in discussion as representatives tried to understand what they had witnessed. Some species had never heard of kinetic weapons. Others thought boarding actions were myths from ancient history. The idea that such primitive methods could defeat modern galactic technology seemed impossible. Counselor Hex Prime, a being that looked like a floating crystal with pulsing lights, spoke with a voice like chiming bells. How do metal projectiles penetrate quantum energy barriers? Our shields are designed to absorb and disperse kinetic energy. That is the problem, Vexthul explained. Our shields work by converting incoming energy into harmless light and heat. But these human projectiles carry so much kinetic force that they overload the conversion systems. The shields cannot process the energy fast enough, so the projectiles pass through. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had focused on developing more powerful energy weapons and stronger energy shields. The arms race had created increasingly sophisticated systems that could stop plasma cannons, quantum disruptors, and antimatter beams. Nobody had considered that simple metal bullets traveling at high speed could bypass all of that technology. Ambassador Kretal of the Silicon Collective asked the question that everyone was thinking. If human weapons can penetrate our defenses so easily, what does this mean for galactic security? The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Every ship, every station, every defense system in the galaxy was designed to stop energy attacks. If humanity's kinetic weapons could punch through those defenses, then the entire military balance of power had just shifted. Far away in the Kepler sector, Colonel Morrison stood in the interrogation room of the captured pirate ship and studied the alien prisoner. Vrektel sat in a chair that was too small for his tall frame, his yellow eyes glowing with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Your weapons, Vrektel said in heavily accented galactic standard. They should not work against our shields. How do they penetrate quantum barriers? Morrison pulled up a chair and sat down across from the pirate. He had interrogated many prisoners during his career, but this was his first alien. Still, fear and confusion looked the same on any face. Physics, Morrison replied simply. Your shields are designed to handle energy. We use mass and velocity. Simple kinetic energy. But kinetic weapons are primitive, Vrektel protested. No civilized species has used them for centuries. Maybe. That is why they work so well, Morrison suggested. You forgot how to defend against them. Before Vrektel could respond, Captain Torres entered the room carrying a datapad. His expression was serious as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports from Earth Command. Colonel, Torres said, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive pirate fleet heading this way. 40 ships, all armed with military-grade weapons. Morrison felt his stomach drop. The Defiant had performed well against 3 pirates' ships, but 40 was a different story entirely. Even with their tactical advantages, the odds were not good. How long until they arrive? Morrison asked. 18 hours, Torres replied. Warlord Kepler is bringing everything he has to eliminate us. Vrektel laughed when he heard the news. Kepler commands the largest pirate fleet in this sector. Your single ship cannot fight 40 vessels and survive. You should retreat while you still can. Morrison looked at the alien prisoner with calm eyes. We do not retreat. We adapt. Back on Earth, Admiral Barnes received the emergency transmission from the Kepler sector and immediately called a meeting of the Joint Chiefs. The situation was critical, but Earth Command had been preparing for this possibility. The Defiant is outnumbered 40-1. Barnes announced to the assembled officers. Captain Torres is requesting reinforcements. General Robert Clark, commander of Earth's Marine Corps, studied the tactical display showing the pirate fleet's approach. How many ships can we send? None, Barnes replied. The Defiant is our only vessel in that sector, and we cannot get reinforcements there in time. So we abandon them? Asked Admiral James Wright of the Navy. Barnes shook her head. We send what we can. Personnel, equipment, and supplies. If one ship is all we have, then we make sure it has everything it needs to win. 6 hours later, 3 transport shuttles launched from Earth carrying reinforcements for the Defiant. But instead of additional ships, they carried something more valuable: people. Marine battalions, special forces teams, military engineers, and tactical specialists. Earth was sending its best soldiers to prove that sometimes the quality of the crew mattered more than the size of the fleet. Major Nicole Brooks commanded the Marine reinforcements. She was a tough woman with short black hair and scars on her hands from years of combat training. Her battalion had trained for ship-to-ship boarding actions, but they had never expected to use those skills against an alien fleet. "Our mission is simple," Brooks briefed her officers as their shuttle approached the Defiant. "We eliminate the entire pirate fleet. Not capture, not disable, eliminate." Lieutenant Colonel Paul Davis, commanding the Special Forces team, reviewed the intelligence on Kepler's fleet. 40 ships is a lot of targets. How do we handle that many enemies with one vessel? "We do not fight 40 ships, Brooks explained. "We fight one ship 40 times. Hit and run tactics, boarding actions, and psychological warfare. We make them afraid to come near us." The reinforcements arrived at the Defiant just as long-range sensors detected the approaching pirate fleet. Captain Torres welcomed the additional personnel, but he knew that even with more soldiers, the coming battle would be the greatest challenge humanity had faced since joining the galactic community. In the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council continued their emergency session. Reports from the Kepler sector indicated that a massive confrontation was about to take place between one human ship and the largest pirate fleet ever assembled. "We should send a fleet to assist them," suggested Ambassador Lyra Zen. "Even these humans cannot survive such overwhelming odds." General Vexfold disagreed. "No, we need to see what they can do. If humanity survives this battle, it will change everything we know about warfare. If they fail, then we know their limits." The Council voted to observe rather than intervene. They would watch as humanity faced its greatest test in space, not knowing that they were about to witness a demonstration that would reshape galactic military thinking forever. The asteroid field looked like a sleeping giant in the darkness of space. Massive rocks floated between the stars, some as large as cities and others no bigger than houses. Hidden among them was the stronghold of warlord Kepler, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid that had served as his base for 5 years. Kepler stood in his command center and watched his fleet take position around the field. 40 ships spread out in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields and plasma weapons. It was the largest pirate force ever assembled, and every vessel was crewed by experienced raiders who had never known defeat. "The human ship approaches," reported his fleet commander, a scarred warrior named Gethmore. "One vessel against our entire fleet. They must be insane." Kepler studied the tactical display with yellow eyes that glowed like hot metal. The single human ship was moving slowly through the outer edge of the asteroid field, apparently looking for his base. It seemed so small and helpless compared to his mighty fleet. "Perhaps they hope to hide among the rocks," Kepler suggested. "It does not matter. We will hunt them down and destroy them slowly. The galaxy will see what happens to those who challenge the Kepler clan." But the UES Defiant was not trying to hide. Captain Torres stood on his bridge and watched his tactical display as the pirate fleet moved into the asteroid field. For the past 3 days, human military engineers had been working throughout the rock field, placing sensors and preparing surprises that the pirates would never expect. "All positions report ready," announced Commander Foster from her tactical station. "The field is prepared." Torres nodded as he studied the enemy fleet. 40 ships was a lot of firepower, but the pirates were making a mistake by fighting in the asteroid field. They were used to open space combat where their superior numbers would give them an advantage. Among the rocks, numbers mattered less than tactics and preparation. "Colonel Morrison," Torres said, "are your people in position?" Morrison checked his communication device and smiled. "Marines are deployed on 15 different asteroids. Special Forces teams are standing by at key locations. The pirates are about to learn what human warfare really looks like." The battle began when the first pirate ship entered the inner asteroid field. The vessel was a sleek cruiser armed with plasma cannons and protected by energy shields. Its captain expected to hunt down a single human ship hiding among the rocks. Instead, The cruiser flew directly into a minefield that had been placed 3 days earlier. But these were not ordinary mines that exploded when ships came near them. These were kinetic mines designed by human engineers to fire metal projectiles at incredible speed. The first mine activated when the pirate ship was only 2 kilometers away. A tungsten rod shot out of the hidden device and punched through the cruiser's energy shields like they were made of air. The projectile tore through the ship's hull and exploded the reactor core in a brilliant flash of light. "Contact lost with advanced scout vessel," Dethmer reported to Kepler. "Cause unknown." Kepler frowned as he studied his tactical display. One ship had simply vanished from his sensors without any sign of enemy fire. "Send another scout to investigate." The second pirate ship met the same fate as the first. Hidden kinetic mines launched their deadly projectiles with perfect accuracy, destroying the vessel before its crew could even send a warning. Within 10 minutes, Kepler had lost 2 ships without seeing the enemy. "What is happening out there?" Kepler demanded. His answer came when the Defiant suddenly appeared from behind a large asteroid, its kinetic cannons already firing. The human ship had been hiding in the shadow of the rock, completely invisible to pirate sensors. By the time the enemy fleet detected it, tungsten rods were already flying through space. 3 pirate vessels exploded before they could return fire. The Defiant disappeared behind another asteroid before the surviving ships could target it properly. The human vessel was using the rock field like a maze, appearing and vanishing at will while picking off isolated targets. "All ships, converge on the human vessel," Kepler ordered. "Surround them and destroy them with concentrated fire." But the pirates found it impossible to surround an enemy that refused to stay in one place. The Defiant used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and then disappearing before the enemy could respond. Worse, the asteroid field was filled with sensor shadows and hiding places that made tracking the human ship nearly impossible. Then the real surprise began. Sergeant Phillips and her Marines had been waiting on asteroid X7 for 2 hours when a pirate ship flew within boarding range. The aliens had no idea that human soldiers were hiding on the space rocks, waiting for targets to come close enough. "Launch boarding pods," Phillips ordered. 6 small craft shot out from concealed positions on the asteroid. They looked like metal bullets flying through space, each one carrying a squad of Marines in powered armor. The pirates detected the incoming objects, but they had no idea what they were looking at. The boarding pods struck 3 different pirate ships at the same time. Human soldiers poured through the breaches and began fighting their way toward the bridge of each vessel. Within minutes, the pirates found themselves fighting hand-to-hand combat inside their own ships. "We are being boarded," one pirate captain reported over the communication system. "Enemy soldiers are inside our vessels." How is this possible? Kepler could not believe what he was hearing. No military force had used boarding tactics in hundreds of years. The idea of soldiers actually climbing onto enemy ships during combat belonged to ancient history. "Fight them off," Kepler ordered. "Use your energy weapons to burn them out." But energy weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat were too powerful to use safely inside a vessel. When pirate crews tried to fire plasma rifles in their own corridors, they often damaged critical systems and caused more harm than good. The humans, with their projectile weapons and close combat training, had every advantage in confined spaces. Major Brooks coordinated the assault from her command post on asteroid K-5. Her Marines were capturing pirate ships faster than the enemy could respond to the attacks. Each successful boarding action gave humanity another vessel and reduced the enemy fleet. 15 ships captured or destroyed, Brooks reported to Captain Torres. "Enemy morale is breaking." The pirates were indeed starting to panic. They had entered the asteroid field expecting to hunt down one helpless human ship. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that appeared from nowhere, used weapons that penetrated their defenses, and employed tactics that seemed impossible. Kepler realized that his fleet was being destroyed piece by piece. The humans were not fighting the kind of battle he understood. They were using the asteroid field as a weapon, turning the space rocks into hiding places and launch platforms for attacks. that came from every direction. All ships retreat to open space, Kepler ordered. We cannot fight them in this environment. But it was too late to escape. Human Special Forces teams had been placed on asteroids throughout the field, and they had been waiting for exactly this moment. As the pirate fleet tried to withdraw, kinetic mines and hidden weapons positions opened fire from a dozen different locations. The retreat became a massacre. Pirate ships found themselves caught in crossfire from multiple directions. Their energy shields useless against the metal projectiles that seemed to come from the rocks themselves. Ships that tried to flee discovered that the exit routes were blocked by more mines and ambush positions. Kepler's flagship was one of the last vessels to survive the slaughter. The warlord sat in his command chair and watched his mighty fleet burn around him. 40 ships had been reduced to 5, then 3, then 1. His warriors lay dead on captured vessels or floating in the vacuum of space. When Sergeant Phillips appeared on his bridge with a squad of Marines behind her, Kepler did not resist. The proud warrior who had terrorized the Kepler sector for 5 years simply raised his hands and surrendered to the humans he had underestimated. The fleet is destroyed, Phillips reported to Captain Torres. All surviving personnel are in custody. Torres looked around his bridge at the crew members who had helped achieve the impossible. One human ship had defeated the largest pirate fleet in galactic history using tactics and weapons that the enemy had never encountered. Signal Earth Command, Torres ordered. Mission accomplished. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council sat in stunned silence as the final battle reports arrived from the Kepler sector. The humans had not just defeated the Kepler pirates. They had completely eliminated them using military techniques that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. General Vexthal stood slowly and addressed the assembly. His voice was quiet but carried clearly through the crystal halls. "We have witnessed the birth of a new military power," he announced. "Humanity has demonstrated capabilities that none of us possess. Their kinetic weapons, boarding tactics, and tactical flexibility represent a completely different approach to warfare." Ambassador Zephyr Ka, who had mocked humanity just days before, now spoke with respect and perhaps a touch of fear. "What do we do now?" he asked. The answer came in the form of an official communication from Earth. Humanity was requesting a permanent position on the Galactic Military Command.